Hey YouTube, Awsama Writer here. Welcome to my review for King-Ohger episode 4. So this episode was interesting. I enjoyed this episode overall. Actually, let's say it was a good episode. I'm gonna say it's gonna get a good score. In fact, you know what? We're gonna do this different. This episode gets a 4 out of 5. We're doing the score now, and then future me can edit in the title card now for it, and I don't have to worry about it later. So there you go, future me. It's a gift. Merry Christmas. But anyway, so yeah, the episode's a 4 out of 5. It's a good episode. But I was going to say this was an interesting episode because, as we were winding down, I'm like, I enjoyed this, but I think it's probably my least favorite episode so far for various reasons. And then the twist at the end happened, which sent the episode over from a 3 to a 4 because, for the most part, there were certain aspects that held the episode back. I mean, we started off pretty strong, picking up where we left off. Pretty cool little quick fight between Kabuto and the mech. It was pretty dynamic. The mech separates. It was really cool, like a really cool intro and a different way to get to our next place, because we're kind of doing this formula where we're going from, region to region, getting to know the main character and region in general, which is really cool. But I like how they've kept it different, like for the reasonings why we're going to each one, which is really neat. And the way that they just kind of, were kidnapped into this region, or forced into this region by a fight rather, was really neat. And we get to see the tofu region. I don't know what their starter Pokemon are. Probably 3, like a fire-type tofu, grass-type tofu, and water-type tofu. But this region is all about food and how food ties into life and their ecosystem, it's really neat. I really like how, again, I've said this before in the other reviews, but I really like how each region is fleshed out, and they each have their own distinct aesthetic. We get to see, their own distinct way of operating, the way they relate to their leader. That's been a real highlight of the series so far, is how interesting and different the mythology's been and how we've been fleshing it out. And even though it's formulaic to a degree, because we're doing the same idea every episode, it gives every episode a different flavor, and in this case literally, because it's about food. But that's really cool. We get a vibe for the region. Obviously we know the Black Ranger is working with Rackley's from the previous episode, but he tries to fool Red Ranger at the beginning, and he's like, oh, I want to work with you and help me and all that stuff, and obviously as the audience we know he's fooling him. And then the Bugnarok show up and kind of, muck things up a little bit, and they want the Kabuto god, and they want like a ransom, you come get, or give us the Kabuto god or else, and stuff like that. And that gives us an opportunity to delve a little bit into the mythology of those gods and the guardians from the past that helped. We do a little bit of a flashback of when Blue was working on Kabuto with Rackley's, and we learn about them, and we see a flash of the combination with all 3 of them, which the toy just recently leaked a picture of them. Not leaked, but the toy picture just came out of the 3 ones that are Kabuto and the other 2. And it looks really cool when it's all together. It's got this golden wing blade pattern. They're really cool overall. And I have to say Kabuto has really grown on me more and more. Not that I ever disliked it. I just only liked it okay, but it's rapidly becoming one of my more favorites in the series. I'm a sucker for a good black-gold color scheme, and the fact that it becomes a canon is pretty freaking cool. So yeah, I really like that. But it's also a nice little teaser. This is feeling very Rider-esque in the sense of how fast we're debuting stuff and all that. But I do like that there's this little mini arc seeming to be made out of the 3 god guardians and how they tie into the mythology, which enriches things, which is overall pretty neat, and I really do dig that aspect of it. But we get an opportunity to see some flashbacks about it, and we talk about how some of them didn't want to work with humanity and some did, and Rackley's was vowing to get the other ones to work with humanity. I think that's meant to tie in at the end with when the 2 mecha hug each other, which was weird. When, Red gets through to the Black Ranger, that it glows, and I'm thinking that is meant to represent Kabuto recognizing Red as someone, worthy to work with. At least that's what I think. But we delve into that mythology a little bit, as Kabuto's a bit of a fixture. And Black Ranger's basically trying to get the others to work with him to fight the Bugnarok, which obviously he really does want that because he wants help fighting them, even though he's trying to screw him over. And there is kind of a fun scene of him trying to talk to them, and the 3 of them are arguing over the food. And it was a fun scene because I think I like the way that those 3 personalities play off of each other, and I enjoyed that. And again, I say this every week, but the action in this series is fantastic. Some of the most cinematic, actually I would say the most cinematic action I've ever seen in Sentai. There's been some cool stuff in Sentai, but it's always, it's Toku, and it's generic stuff. But this is cinematic as hell. And we had another fight with Yellow and Blue. Black's debut fight was awesome. I'm having a hard time deciding which suit is my favorite, honestly, because I'm really liking the suits. They just look so beautiful in the series, and the dynamic fights with the action and the slow-mo look so good, and it makes everything so memorable. But then at the end, the other 3 Rangers are helping the Black Ranger, and of course he betrays them, and he's like, oh, I have to do what's right for my country. And then you get this whole scene where Red then convinces him to join him, quote-unquote convinces him. and is like, I know you're betraying us, but I understand, and you care about people, and you understand that like food is a part of life, and you'd even protect the food, which is the small part of life, and I want to work with you anyway because toku nonsense. And then, like I said, the mecha hug. And then he's like, okay, I'm working with you. And this was the point where I was like, okay, I enjoyed this episode. It has a lot about what I'm liking about the series so far, but this is pretty generic. We're dropping this off too early. This could have gone on longer. Plus, I don't really like the Black Ranger that much, which I'll get into in a minute. So I'm like, this is a 3 out of 5 already. Like, I got 2 or 3 minutes left in the episode. 3 out of 5 is already queued up in my head. And then the end happens, where Blue's like, something's up here. Like, this was like too easy, and he could have captured us at any point. And he realizes that Black's going to betray him, and then it's then that you see Black Ranger turn and get this smirk on his face, and he turns red in. He's like, I'm sorry, but I have to do what I have to do for my people. I'm willing to get down into the... He specifically says I'm willing to get down into the dirt and do basically slimy things to protect my people no matter what it takes. And there was kind of a neat callback to a scene at the beginning of the episode when they meet the townspeople and they're like gifting him food, and like one of the pieces that it's covered in dirt, and then he literally says, I'm willing to get down in the dirt. I thought that was really cool. I liked the way that played back into each other, almost like a bit of foreshadowing tie-in. And then unexpectedly, like, not just did Black Ranger be like, I'm turning you in, but it's Purple that shows up to arrest them. And Purple's kind of been like foreshadowing herself through the episodes. Like, she was in last week's, and then she was briefly in the scene with Rackley's when he was back at the base, and he was before he Skyped with or FaceTimed or whatever the kids are using these days with the Black Ranger. He said like, oh, Purple's here in the library or whatever. So I did not expect Purple to show up like that at the end. I feel like this is just a hunch, but I don't think her motivations are as clear-cut. Like, she's obviously coming to arrest him, and in the preview we see them in jail or whatever at her kingdom, but I don't think she's as on board with Rackley's. I don't know, it's just a feeling. I think just because Black Ranger is currently working with him, the idea of her so clear-cut working with him just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like she either has her own motivations, or maybe she's a little more apprehensive and just wants to see what Red has to say for himself. But I'm just going to speculate it's not as clear cut. But it was a great entrance, another great cliffhanger, epic music played. I'm not sure who my favorite character is yet because it's early on, but solely based on the civilian character design, she's still my favorite based on that. She has the coolest character design it's like definitely cool and stand out, and definitely not something a normal person would wear on the street. But it's like also the most tame in a way, because everyone else is like, they'd be peacocking if they were outside, like, shopping at Target looking like they are. But yeah, those last couple of minutes really set the episode over the edge for me for a 4 out of 5, because I was thinking like, yeah, this is good, but it's a missed opportunity, because I was thinking when he was fighting him and working with Rackley's, I'm like, this is kind of cool, because you can have these inner conflicts, and I hope that continues throughout the series, where because they all represent a different community, they're going to have different goals at times, and I think that could make for some interesting dynamics. I don't want to see them fighting each other every 5 minutes over a toku misunderstanding like writers do, but I think that would make something really unique for Sentai and something less kumbaya and cheesy, and also just be an interesting different dynamic. And I was thinking, man, it would have been cool to have almost a Lupat style series with different warring factions. I was just thinking there's a lot of opportunity here, and the fact that we seem to be generically already being like, oh, Black Ranger's gonna work with them, I was disappointed. But then the fact that it was a betrayal, because then I was also thinking like, you know what, if they were gonna do this, they shouldn't have told us last week that Black was working with them. They should have let it be a surprise and just be like, who's in the Kabuto, who's attacking, assume it's Rackley's, and then it's the Black Ranger. But this was cool, because it was like a twist on a twist, and I really liked that. And just in regards to the Black Ranger, I do like the concept of his character in a way where like he's very like happy and light with his people and stuff, but then he's willing to do, like you said, to get down in the dirt, willing to do bad things to save his people. And he did a really good job with that turn of like he's all happy-go-lucky and then he like all of a sudden gets like smarmy evil, which I do like the concept. I'm just gonna be honest, overall based on his first showing, I'm not a fan of his personality though. He's definitely too over the top for me. It's just my thing. Toku just... animated characters are never going to be my thing. I just can't stand them. And especially when they are so over the top that it bleeds into the character and it makes them feel like a cartoon and less like a character. And even though there were elements of like, yeah, he does have motivation where he's doing these bad things for good reasons for his people, and I'm not saying he's completely like one-dimensional animated, it's just for me it was the most over-the-top performance, which just really put me off. I'm hoping that changes as we go forward. I was worried about Yellow too, is because like even in this episode she has her caricature aspects, but last week showed me like, hey, she can actually be a human being if she needs to be. So again, it's early on. This is episode 4, guys. We've only really seen him twice now and in the pilot, but he's definitely the most obnoxious like Toku character for me that I'm just not vibing with so far. Even though I do do like some of the concepts. But yeah, this was a strong episode. It really surprised me because I'm like, yeah, I'm enjoying this on a base level, but it really surprised me there at the very end with a great cliffhanger leading into next week, and I can't wait to see what happens and see how they join up. I mean, obviously, it looks like we're all joining up together. And also, a very last side note, I can't believe I never made this connection until this episode, but when Red was like, you gotta join my crew, I'm like, this is One Piece, right? This totally feels like One Piece vibes. Like a weirdo character recruiting other weirdo characters. Like, it just gave me that vibe. I think it was just, this is where it clicked. But anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of the episode, and until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps, and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. The Awesome Writer, signing out.